What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and today I want to talk about something that I believe most players in the game struggle with and is a seriously limiting factor towards their play, and that is confirmation bias. Let's get started. Now, confirmation bias is the natural human tendency to accept evidence that confirms your beliefs and to ignore or reject evidence that contradicts your beliefs. For example, say you believe that your boss always assigns you more work than usual on a Friday. On Fridays, you'll end up noticing a larger amount of work, but you'll ignore the amounts of work you are given on the other days, as you are not looking to see which day you get more work on, but rather you're looking to see if you get more work on Fridays. And naturally, you'll feel like you get more work on Fridays regardless of the actual amount that is assigned. This is how confirmation bias works, and it's a natural psychological trait for humans to have. Unfortunately, confirmation bias is rampant in League of Legends, and it's also one of the biggest things that causes blaming and flaming. Loads of people take a confirmation biased approach to bad plays that they make. They naturally don't want to admit that they themselves are at fault, so they find a reason that proves whatever bad play happened wasn't their fault. After the play happened, they remember it in a way where it proves their concern of not having to blame themselves. That way, it's just bad teammates that caused that play, rather than anything they actually did themselves. This happens in almost every single game. People want to find ways to blame others for their mistakes that they made, since they simply just don't realize the mistakes that they made, and because they want to find ways to blame others, they are naturally drawn to reasons that blame someone else, and then instead ignore anything that puts them at fault. Rather than looking for what could have been done better in a play, they are looking for someone to blame, and because they are looking for someone to blame, they always find it. This type of confirmation bias may just be the biggest inhibitor for any player when it comes to improving your play. When it comes to improving as a player, it's all about noticing your mistakes and what you could have done better. But how can you do that if due to your confirmation bias, you don't even notice your mistakes in the first place? And that is the true mistake players are making. Now, you shouldn't feel bad about being a victim of confirmation bias, as it is really a normal human tendency. But overcoming your confirmation bias is definitely one of the best things you can do to help improve your play. By overcoming your confirmation bias that you have in your games, you can focus on yourself, and instead of always blaming your teammates, you'll often blame yourself instead, causing you to notice most, if not all, of your mistakes, rather than just a few, if any. This will allow you to see the things you are poor at, and then can make steps towards working on that, and then finally, vastly improve your play overall. However, overcoming confirmation bias can be quite difficult. Let me take a hopefully unbiased approach to this by looking at some things that will likely not help you when it comes to confirmation bias. This way you know what strategies to avoid, as well as what strategies to use. The first strategy that will not work is that simply knowing that your confirmation bias exists does not cure it. This is because confirmation bias stems from the tendency to prove something that you already believe. Confirmation bias is a natural human tendency, not something we're taught, so you cannot overcome it simply by just being aware of it. Another thing that does not help with confirmation bias is looking for evidence that proves your initial thoughts wrong. Likely what ends up happening if you do this is you end up in a spot that is even further from the actual unbiased truth, because in looking to prove your initial thought wrong, you're actually increasing your confirmation bias, just in the opposite direction, as now instead you're going to ignore things that prove you right and focus only on the things that prove you wrong. And lastly, the third thing that will not help confirmation bias is exposing yourself to a lot of evidence. Confirmation bias stems off of ignoring a certain type of evidence, so even if you expose yourself to it a lot, you will still likely end up ignoring it anyways. Now, for the things that do help when it comes to confirmation bias. The first and biggest tip I have is to always keep an open mind. Be open to every single possibility. including the one that you think may have confirmation bias attached to it. You always want to see every side to a story. That way, you can see the entire story as a whole. Do this by always considering different options for what could have happened in certain plays. You should never rely on simply just one point of view. Instead of looking at just what your teammates could have done, you should always look at what you could have done in that bad play that just happened. Also, be ready to accept surprises at the same rate as a non-surprising play. That gank from the opposing mid laner may have come out of nowhere with no indication from your teammate that it was coming, so your natural, immediate response would likely be to look at why your mid laner didn't do anything and what they could have done better. But that doesn't change the fact that you had a ward in your inventory the whole time and just didn't place it down. And lastly, above all else, when it comes to confirmation bias in League, you can always just blame yourself for whatever bad situation happened. This is because you do not have control over how your teammates play, but you do have control over how you play. So you can just focus on your play, and even if a bad play wasn't your fault, there will almost always be something that you could have done better. And by noticing that, you can take huge steps to improving the next time that happens. My name is Jeremy, and that is it for my video on confirmation bias in League of Legends. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my others on the screen right now. Please follow my stream at twitch.tv/Jeremy_gamingcurios for updates on whenever I'm streaming, and I'd love it if you could support me with a like. Please subscribe for more awesome content in the future if you enjoyed this video, and I'd love it if you could follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/gamingcurios. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.